Hey folks, how's it going? Hope the new week is finding you well and that the weather warming up is also finding you well. I went for a walk last week with my dogs with that northern wind, and that was brutal. I felt like it was back in, February. Maybe exaggerating a little bit, but I'm sure many of you know how I'm feeling about that. In any case, sun is out, things are getting better, and hopefully that means that that'll help with the COVID situation as well. In any case, I think maybe we talked about this a little bit in the last video, but if not, I'm trying to remember, you may have heard through one news source or another that they are looking at ways to have some kind of graduation ceremony. So I thought many of you would be pretty happy about that, especially since, this group, you guys are a pretty good group. You're not like the worst group, at least, Okay, maybe I'm actually a little fond of you guys, and that's why I'm glad we're doing this enlightenment thing however we can, because we manage, and that's what good people do when unexpected stuff happens. But either way, I'm really glad that they're looking into ways so that you guys can enjoy some kind of graduation ceremony, because, I think frankly you deserve it. It's one of those things that we just don't have control over, and this is a sign that the people at our building, your administration and student services people, are looking for ways for us to take control of it, and that's really cool. So kudos to them, and I just thought if you haven't already heard this, I'd like to be the one to tell you. So hopefully that makes you feel a little bit better. We'll have to wait and see what it ends up looking like, but either way, it's in the plans. So up until this point, we've been looking at enlightenment. You guys have studied Plato's The Cave, and now next year when you're off in university, you'll be able to impress all the people with your knowledge of such a famous piece of ancient philosophy. But more importantly and more seriously, it deals with a worldview, or rather understanding the world and developing your worldview in a healthy way that's based on rational thought. And I think that when people talk about enlightenment, they generally think of sort of the scientific enlightenment that happened in our civilization, in Western civilization, about 200 years ago, or 150, 200 years ago, up until I guess really the 1900s. That was a period where the way that Western civilization made sense of the world changed from being based on religious understandings of the world and being more based on scientific ones. This didn't mean that there wasn't still room for both worldviews and that we don't respect different worldviews, because that's really one of the cornerstones of our civilization. But the kind of prevailing understanding of why the world works the way that it does became based on scientific and rational observation. And it's one of the reasons why we've developed such incredible technology. It's one of the reasons why that building has stood for 2,500 years, like we talked about, whereas Sparta, which was a nation more based on conflict, it's dust, because science and building things that are well thought out and well prepared is generally a way to ensure that they endure. So what's the next step? Well, there's a few other things that kind of happen in between, obviously, and we're going to kind of circle back to a few of those, but I actually want for this video and this next assignment to jump to what the Enlightenment looks like in the 21st century. Because what's the point in studying something if we're just going to, it's neat, Enlightenment is cool, and it gave us all this, yada, 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 who cares? If we don't take the things that we learned in the past, these ideas around enlightenment, and we connect them to what our world looks like today, then what's the point, right? We might as well we could have studied anything. So the next thing I want to show you, and I think you'll like this because it's another video, and it's one I really wish we could watch together in class, but so you could listen to my commentary. I know how much you guys love when I pause every few seconds and tell the story of what's going on, even though you can probably tell what it is to begin with. This video is called 21st Century Enlightenment, and it's another one done by the RSA, the Royal Society of the Arts, and it's very well put together. It's a university lecture which they have animated. We've looked at these before earlier in the course here, and this one talks about what it looks like today. So in the last one, we were learning about how science, high-level theoretical physics, is now telling us that reality may not be what we perceive it to be. This just might be our bodies and our senses' capacity to understand that, there's so much more going on when you look at a table or a mote of dust or, the ocean than just simply matter or water or energy, that it could be vibrating superstrings in some 10th dimension, and that's really hard to wrap our heads around, but if we can, think of the scientific development we can get out of that. That's the science side of it, and that's really cool. But what about the human side of it? And what does 21st century enlightenment really mean? Because we've already kind of developed a scientific worldview, so what's the next step? Well, the video is going to argue to you, minor spoiler here, that it's empathy, that nothing really matters in terms of scientific development or cultural development or even social development if it doesn't actually make people's lives better. And one of the things that I think many of you, and by talking to so many of you, and I know that you have all learned so much about the things where the world falls short and letting certain people down and groups of people down, and it's both on the other side of the ocean and it's also right across the street sometimes, and we know this. And so empathy is what this video is arguing is the key to our 21st century version of enlightenment. Because if we know about a problem in the world, but we don't care, we won't ever make any changes, right? We won't do anything to make a difference. Kind of conversely, if you care a lot but don't know anything, you're also not going to be able to make a difference in the world. So to make a difference in the world, you both have to know and you have to care. And we're really good on the knowing part. For instance, think of all of your geography classes back in grade 10, or in my class in grade 9 for those of you who I had, where we're learning about issues that are happening around the world and current events discussions. And the reality is that we might have known a lot, but it becomes very difficult to care about it because it's hard to remember that those are people, and that if we were in their shoes, we would probably want somebody to help us out. And so the example of this that I can think of from our class is I remember a few months ago we were talking about the Ebola crisis, and I told you guys about how we right here in Winnipeg had been instrumental in developing a vaccine for it, and that the amount of money that it would have cost to develop that vaccine would have been peanuts compared to how much it costs and how much that money is versus how much we spend on Halloween candy every year. And looking at the way you guys were shocked by that and the look of like just exasperation on your faces, it gave me some hope in humanity because it showed me that you really do care, but you just didn't know, right? And so right there is kind of like why this video, I think, makes a lot of sense for you guys, because I think you know and I think you care, and that means that you're the kind of people that maybe will be the generation that starts to make a difference. I'm hopeful that you will be, and that's why I think showing you stuff like this maybe will help. In any case, let's take a quick look at the assignment so I don't talk your ear off for the whole afternoon here. There we go. Bring this over. There we go. Okay, so it's very similar to the last one, very short. All I'm going to ask you to do is make sure you've kind of done the cave assignment and you've looked at the scientific enlightenment one, and then keep this core understanding in mind that in order to be enlightened, you have to at least try to see the world as it truly is, not how you're used to. It's the idea that we should not assume something is true or just or beautiful simply because it is familiar, and that something is not true, just, or beautiful simply because it is unfamiliar. Basically, just because you're used to something doesn't mean that it's true, and just because it's weird doesn't mean it's not true. We've made some huge steps on this over the last decade or so, I think. We still have a ways to go, but this is real progress, and it's something that I think Canadians can be very proud of. Again, doesn't mean everything's perfect, but it's worth remembering that we're making steps in the right direction here. So now, after doing that, and keeping that in the back of your mind, how seeing the world as it is, not whether it makes us comfortable or not, is what really matters. I want you to watch this video, and the link is right here, 21st Century Enlightenment. I think I have it queued up over here, actually. There you go. So it's one of these, right?
So whilst I don't underestimate it,
and it's really, really good, and I really wish we could have a face-to-face conversation around this, because this video, it talks about this 21st century enlightenment, and it humanizes it, because we have to be better in our world about caring about other human beings. When you studied Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird 2 years ago, and there's that line that he says to Scout about how to really understand someone, you have to walk around in their shoes for a day. This is what that is. That is empathy, and it means that you care, and it means trying to see the world from someone else's point of view, and realizing that all the technology and all the scientific development in the world means nothing if it doesn't make people's lives better. And if you do what you can to make someone else's life better, then you are a good person, and you are, in a sense, on this road to enlightenment. And it's a tough road to walk, because I think that there are some very legitimate concerns about, well, how can I, if I dedicate my whole life to trying to make someone else's life better, what am I sacrificing? And I think, like anything else, there just needs to be balance, right? It doesn't mean that Canada can say, we're going to spend all of our tax money trying to fix this other country far on the other side of the world. We simply can't do that, nor should we, because if we did, we wouldn't be able to solve our own problems right here at home. But the more that we let ourselves be aware and try to understand the pain and suffering of other human beings, the more we might be able to use all this incredible technology and this incredible philosophy that we're lucky to be a part of as Westerners, especially as Canadians. How can we use all that power for something good and noble, so that we can kind of hold our heads up high, in history's lens, and know that we tried to do with our power good things. So yeah, watch this video, take some notes around it, record your thoughts. Again, you don't have to write a response for this, that's coming down the line, but there's a couple more videos and sources that I want to show you that are about different aspects of enlightenment, and then we'll get into the writing portion that goes with it. Either way though, give this video a watch. I'm really interested to see what you guys have to say on this one. In any case, hopefully this video finds you well. I hope you're doing all right, and that if you have any questions about this or anything else, send me an email, and I will send this out to you guys right away. And nothing else really to say other than look at this color matching. Look, it's like kind of sunset there, and I've made it look like it's sunset here. It's pretty advanced, right? Just give me some credit for that, hey? Either way, seriously, hope you guys are doing okay. I miss you. We'll talk soon. Bye.